hello.
Just so fantastic. Good evening, distinguished guests. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight, where we present Aida and her daughters. Tonight, I am so incredibly proud to present Miss Angela Brown, who's in Indianapolis now, and Miss Latonia Moore, who is in Miami, Florida, and Miss Indra Thomas, who is in Atlanta, Georgia. Ladies, I bow down.
Yes, down to my sisters too. Oh my gosh. Yes. This beautiful
It was so
singing.
difficult. This beautiful singing, it was difficult to sort of choose. I thought I'll just choose, you know, from what I could and what I could find on YouTube. And it struck me that there actually wasn't that much of all of you, which I think is really interesting because I know you all to be like amazing Aidas. With that said, I had to present what I could find, and what I found was absolutely spectacular. Thank y'all again. So, ladies and gents, as you can see, the ladies are beat for the gods. They are ready for everyone. Yes, like I'm having a bit of an echo. So I just want to make sure that that's not bothering anyone right now. Let's start off. I think what strikes me about this role of Aida, the difficulty factor of presenting her. How did each of you come in contact with the role in the beginning? Let's start with you, Angela. How did you come in contact with the role?
Well, I want to say my first touching of Aida was when I went to Indiana University and started to study with Virginia Zayani. And she told me early on that I went to her as a mezzo soprano and then changed to a Verdi and soprano. She said, the Verdi courses through your veins. You will be a great Aida. You will sing. And I was like, okay. So I ended up going to which is the Ezio Pinza Council for American Singers Opera, Verdi, Italy, studying with Claudia Pinza and her whole group there. And I learned the role of Aida that summer. And I just continued to peel the onion of her. I'm trying to think my first time singing Aida. That's going to be a harder one for me to think about. My first actual time singing her, I want to say was, oh, Janet, help me if you're out there. That's my agent. I want to say it was Indianapolis Opera here in my hometown, but I had been covering her at the Metropolitan, but I lied. That one of the first times I just kind of sang her was that video that you showed. I was young. I was a youngin' then. And that was one of the first times that I started doing with a lot of symphony orchestras and stuff. So, girl, I need to get back into the annals of my archives and see when that is. But I'm going to find out and be able to answer that question for you for real.
No worries.
Well, this is over.
No worries. Mm-hmm. Sorry, we had a bit of an echo issue, so we were trying to fix that. And I think I got it fixed.
Okay.
Indra,
yes.
Your first introduction to the role, what was that like, and taught it to you? Or
well, the first time anybody wanted me to sing the role I was in an audition, and a guy said, hey, do you sing Aida? And I was like, no, not yet. So I went to AVA in Philadelphia, and we did the Nile scene and a big Verdi Verdi scenes from operas, and one of the scenes was the third act of Aida, and that was my first time ever singing any of the Aida things. My very first performance of Aida for production was here in Atlanta with the Atlanta Opera. They were so wonderful to allow me to try out the role here for the first time. And I was so grateful for that, because Aida is very intimidating to anybody who sings it, and to be at home to do it with you're already loved, and so you get that extra pressure of trying to please an audience or trying to win them over. They're already, you know, in love with you, and so that was good. And so I kind of eased into the role, and it was good for me to have that, because you know this role is very psychological, and so to have that burden of the extra to come off was just perfect. And they were a beautiful audience here in Atlanta, and I was so privileged and honored to do this magnificent, you know, role here in Atlanta. Yeah.
Latonia, when was the first time you were introduced to the role, and who introduced it to you?
Before I even start into that, I'm gonna go talk about Indra's first time, because I was there at ABA. I didn't go to school there yet, and I was telling Angela before we started how I used to stalk Indra before I went to ABA, and I went into the theater like before, and I kind of like broke in, and I would sit up in the balcony and wait for Indra to come in and sing something, like if she's doing an audition or something. So I was there for that first Act 3 Aida, and I was stunned. I was blown away and completely obsessed. And to hear a voice like Indra's do it, I was just like, I don't know if this would ever be possible for me, but if it is, I hope I can sing it like that. So as it turned out, the next year, I went to ABA as well, Academy of Vocal Arts, you know, because I was stalking her, so I was obsessed, and I went to ABA. Anyway, while I was there, Danielle Orlando, the vocal coach, she assigned me that duet that you just showed. Actually, was my first piece of Aida, was the Amneri's Aida duet at ABA. My first year of school, I think it was 22. So that was wild, but it was something that Danielle heard in my voice very early on. And I kind of shunned for a long time because I just didn't think it was for me. And I didn't want to end up doing it just because I was Black, and I didn't want people to put me in it for that reason. So my manager at the time, Matthew Laker, he said, I think the best way for us to try this out is somewhere kind of smaller scale where it's not super publicized. So my very first Aida was in Bremen, Germany in 2009. It was like,
Bremen.
I think my debut, that performance was the day that Michael Jackson died, something like that. It was June 25th, 2009. And I was like, I'm singing this for Michael. And I was terrified, but I just laid it out there. And it was an outdoor production. It was on the water, which was cool, pretty badass, because in the second act, when you know that second act entrance where the dancers come in and they're like hot and sexy in Mary's bedroom and stuff. Well, I made my entrance while I was dancing on a boat. Oh my God, I felt like such a superhero. So I made the entrance on the boat and everything. And I thought the cool concept of the production would be enough for me to get over the nerves of singing Aida for the first time, but it didn't. Okay, I was terrified, like poop your pants kind of terrified, almost literally. Okay, and so that was my first introduction to it. And after that, I wasn't sure if it was something for me, but obviously it was. And the rest is history. I guess we'll get to it, but that was my first.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
So this is a question that I think I told you all I would ask. It's no big deal. Latonia, how many times have you sung this role?
Man, I don't remember the exact count, but it's something like 160. 160.
You count performances?
I'm counting all of them. I'm counting all of them.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Indra?
I don't think it's, the funny thing is about Aida, even though I'm known for it, I think I may have done a little over 100. I haven't done as much. I did a lot of Verdi singing, but the Aidas I did maybe 120, maybe something like that. Yeah.
What about you, Miss Angela?
I don't know.
Right.
A lot. Okay. And I guess I'll just not prepared for this interview.
Well, Angela, I will tell you,
Question.
if you don't know Angela, I will tell you, you did more than 160.
Yeah.
You
You probably did at least 250, at least at 3.
I've done a lot of them. I've done a lot because me and my agent was sitting there going, now we know, counting on our fingers and toes. I don't know, but it's a lot. It's quite a few.
It's been quite a few. And I asked that because I think it's important for our audience to understand the importance of having the opportunity to sing more than just 2 or 4 performances. Like, there's no way that you can get your foot wet, as so to speak, in a role such as that and not, learn.
Yeah.
So it's, for me, that's a thing I think that we need to really think about. For those of us who haven't really done it as much, you know what I mean? Tell me what your teachers told you about singing this role. I want you to go back into the annals of your mind and talk to me about what your teachers talked to you about: breath support, alignment, making sure that, I don't know, issues with, dealing with conductors. Like, what are some of the things that stick out in your mind when you think about your lessons and what your teachers talked to you about when you sang the approach to the role? Because she's so varied, and Verdi loves to do that. You have the triumphal scene, you have the Nile scene, you have the ethereal, tomb scene, you have the declamatory first act. What did they talk to you? What did they say to you to sort of prepare you? I mean, there's nothing that could prepare you for it until you just do it. But what did they say to you? Latonia, maybe? I don't know.
The biggest thing that Bill said to me, other than, listen to Indra and to listen to Aprila and stuff like that. But I'm just being honest, it was straight up like that. But the biggest thing he told me was, he said, just keep it lyric, Latonia. He said, the worst thing you could possibly think is that this is a spinto role. He said, go ahead, throw that out the window and just sing it lyrically. As lyrically as you sing Faust or Dona Elvira or something like that. He said, don't forget, you have the same voice. He said, and as far as stamina, just stretch your lines as well as you can without forcing and pushing anything, because a character like that, especially based on the history of the character, operatically, the recordings you hear, it's very bombastic usually, right? But the most successful Aidas are the ones that ride over the orchestra, not try to punch their way through it. So Bill emphasized this a lot for me, because I definitely wanted to just, put it in gear and go roar and like scream my balls off the whole time. And he just did not want that, and he wouldn't let me. And it took me years to understand why. Probably, I don't know how many years, but it took me some years to understand why. I'm just like, this is the sort of role it is. It requires a certain amount of werewolf, you know what I mean? You need some balls a little bit to sing a role like this. And he's like, yes, balls, but not force. There's a real difference. And also, when you look at a character like her, I mean, she's full of angst, not anger.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So even when she's in her monologue at the very beginning, this is not, this is not something she's angry about. This is her swirling in her head. And if you apply that sort of thing, this youthful sort of swirling and conflict to your singing, then it becomes more lyric and it's easier to get through.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Indra.
So really Bill told me the same thing, to keep it lyric. My very first agent, Paul Cote, he was talk about Leontine and how she would keep it very lyric and all the above. And so that was interesting for me to try to do that, but my voice got heavier. And so eventually it got, what Tanya was talking about, a little bit more forceful from my perspective. And I'm also one of those singers that kind of go full tilt when you sing, which is not a good idea. Young singers, full tilt is not a good idea. Thank you very much. Okay. It's not. Unless you don't care about your throat, then then go full tilt. But if you do everything should be lyric. And so that if you do the powerhouse singing, the push or whatever, it is an effect only. So there. But yeah, but keeping it very lyric for me really helped me to sing it, and also to stay out of my head so much and just kind of live in the moment of the role, because I find as a singer, I'm not one of those people I don't stay in the same mode. I tend to, if I feel angry that day, then you're probably going to get an angry Aida. If I'm feeling happy that day, you probably get a nice, loving and kind Aida. So for me, I have to kind of live in the moment, because I'm one of those things. I have no control. I'm a Scorpio, and I have no control over my emotions. So, so I kind of ride. It works best for me to ride the emotions, but lyric singing, thinking, always lyric, because the tessitura is so high. You have no choice but to be lyric in this role. So those young singers who are approaching this role, and I hope many, many, many are approaching this role. This role is so fantastic. I would say to you, always think lyrically, work on it for a year to build your stamina, and then sing it, and try to get at least 4 performances, 4 to 5 performances your first time out, because it's not that first performance, it's that 5th performance that's going to tell you whether or not you should be singing this or not. So yeah, there, I said it. I'm done.
That's right, Miss Angela. Some distinction, some things that your teacher that has stuck with you in your mind. I see you have the score in your hand, meaning that.
See how tattered it is. I have taken this score everywhere with me, because all of my teachers' markings, all of my teachers' instructions are in this book. Aida was my Bible, except the real Bible, when I was out there performing for a great deal. Madam Virginia Zayani would tell me all the time to stay in the ooh position, darling. Let the words taste delicious in your mouth, like a piece of Godiva chocolate. It's melting on the center, and you can't enjoy it. No, don't enjoy it. Let the people enjoy it. And you let that tone spin and spin. Because I am a very visual kind of person. That's how she spoke to me in my lessons. So staying on the breath, always having that legato line, letting it be silver, spinning those pianissimi. Everybody doesn't have that. I was blessed to have it innately.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say that. Aida is a bad. Okay. But like the other ladies have said, it's nothing you can muscle. You have to float on her. You have to just be ethereal. It's like if you're floating in a pool of water, you have to have that weightlessness to her. But then on the Ritorna Vincitor, you have to come out like a lion. You have to bite, but you don't bite like that.
Yeah, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what I teach my students, and that's what I remind myself. And I put all my reminders right here, because I remember Virginia Zayani telling me that. And I was blessed because I had her in my life to tell me from the beginning. She's a woman, she's vulnerable, have that in your voice, but remember to stay on your breath, baby.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Angela, do you mind turning? I
Is
think
it mine?
I think it might be. I think I turned mine down.
I think because I have the watch on my thing. Maybe I can move it away.
Hello, hello, hello. Is it still?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Is that better? No.
Maybe it's you, Indra. I don't know.
Maybe it is me. Okay, I'm gonna turn my watch off on my thing. Okay. Okay, is it me still? It was, oh, is it me? I don't know.
I think we're just gonna have to rock with it.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good. When we think about her, and we think about certain passages in in the role, can you all think about what passages for you are the most difficult? And
okay, I'm sorry to even interrupt you before you even finish the question. I'm not going to pretend like it's anything other than the Nile scene. O Patria Mia. Let's not pretend. It's O Patria Mia, okay? And now, if either one of you tries to say something else, I'm going to call you a liar, because let's get real. That's
Damn O Patria Mia. You know why? Because Verdi is notorious for this. He has you belting, screaming out a huge scene for 30 minutes. He just says in Forza too. He has you singing from the top of the opera all the way through to the duet with the Padre, and then you have an hour off, and then you have to sing Pace Pace. He does this with O Patria Mia, and you only have your 25-minute intermission to get that throwback down after you scream over everybody. And the problem is that there's so much sound on stage, and you're on stage and you're pushing, and you don't even realize you're pushing sometimes. It's like, oh my God. And sometimes I had to make a conscious choice to mouth the words so that I can save the throat for the very, very extremely exposed Nile scene. The whole scene is exposed until you get to the father, pretty much. And even in the duet with the tenor, it's still a little bit exposed. And then he wants you to belt out the end. And it's a very long night.
But Indra, the very words that you say, belt out, here's, to me, what I'm hearing is flip top head. It can't never be flip top head. It's always got to be in the position all the way through. And I always enjoyed this, but the part that was the hardest for me is approaching that C, and it was always here. It was never here. Because this wasn't connected. Oh, this wasn't gonna be connected. So if I was so concerned about, am I gonna get it out? Because also in the score, it's supposed to be dolce. I'm sorry, a high C that you're approaching from. Sometimes, I mean, I was able to do it a lot.
Younger.
I got older, it got bigger. Okay, so it's about what it feels like in your body.
Yeah.
In your body. But it's the Nile scene. Not the whole scene, but the O Patria Mia.
Yeah, definitely O Patria Mia.
What I'm doing, I'm listening to everything that you all are saying. I think we figured out where the echo is coming from. So what I'm going to do is, yes, if you're not talking, I think it might be coming from the echo of the big room that Latonia is in. So that's awesome. At least we know where it is. So that's good. And just come right on in when you need to speak. So we've talked about the O Patria Mia, the difficulty of the piece, and we talked about the approach. And I think because every throat is different, the approach can go a manner of ways. And in all of the listening and studying that I have done of her and tons of other ladies, because everyone's throat is set up a bit different, I think that's the reason why it is so treacherous for everyone. No one's throat was set up like, I don't know, Jensa or Price or whoever. Everyone had their own thing going on. And so this setup, I think, I think we can do everything that we can to make sure that we approach and that we set up in the right place. But this, it starts to, it's like a fever pitch. It's like a fever pitch. And it's something that you've been working on for such a long time. And then when you get there, it's like, what did you ladies do? And what have you learned?
I'm going to say, because you said that everybody has different voices, and so the approach is very different, but I disagree. I think that no matter if you're Beverly Sills or Jesse Norman, the approach is the same, Aida. It should be the same. And if that approach is not working for you, to ride over the orchestra and take it easy, perhaps you shouldn't be singing Aida. I mean, that's a hard reality to accept. I mean, a lot of people do it and they think, oh yeah, I can sing the notes and it's totally fine, but it doesn't mean that it's right for you. I think if you approach everything lyrically and you're always riding over the orchestra and singing with a nice, comfortable ease, fully supported, you know, then your voice is gonna tell you whether or not Aida is right for you.
Mm-hmm.
It won't lie, believe me. Because if it's not right for you and then you have to vocally compromise yourself, your voice will be done sooner than you think. So it's very important to take the lyric approach to Aida, no matter what kind of voice you have. Lyric, solid, beautiful, spun, like Angela said, beautifully spun lines the entire time, no matter what the size or the caliber of your voice, because that's what's going to save you in an opera like this, no matter what. And if it does not, then go to see Momo Canegra, you know, perhaps, you know, a Desdemona or something like that. If you feel like you're a Verdiana and Aida is not the one, try a different one. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, I could be wrong, and y'all are welcome to disagree, but that's what I think.
What have you learned, Angela, to do during those times of angst, especially in a role like this? What have you learned how to do during that time mentally?
I have tried to relax myself, because I remember singing at the Met and doing O Patria Mia. I always start out I would always start out looking into the azure skies and with my back turned, and then I would turn to sing, because that whole time my back is turned, I'm going, Jesus, sweet Jesus, sweet Jesus. I know I'm supposed to be looking at Ethiopia, but I'm looking to you, Father. I know I'm singing about Newman, but it's about you, God, the big G God. I'm praying. And then I am relaxing myself, breathing into my back and letting it expand around. And then I'm literally doing that, getting my expanse together, really feeling my ribs raise and go in like an accordion. And then I'm like, okay, I've done all the work in the studio. It's time to put it out there. And every time I do that, you would think that after however many I've done, because we don't really know how many I've done, that it would be like, you know, falling off a horse or a bike and getting back on and no, each one has been different for me. So I have had to breathing, praying, and centering myself has got me through every Aida I've ever done, so that I can give a different performance to a different audience, because your energies are going to be different on different days, you know. So that's one thing that I can truly say that I've done, not just Aida, any role I have done. If I have a moment to turn my back, I'm breathing and praying, y'all.
I want to say, Angela, to speak on the fact that you said your approach to the role, no matter what, is easy, and you try to calm yourself down and all of this stuff. Is this just for Aida, or is this something that you have to do for other roles, like other Verdi roles, for instance, that you find challenging? This is more of a personal question, because I'm just very curious for you and for Indra, especially because Indra also said she did a lot of Aidas, but she did, you know, a steady diet of a lot of different Verdi roles. So I'm very curious to hear just what y'all have to say about that.
Well, I would say it's for every role, because I'm the same person singing all these different roles, but I'm thinking in the temperament of the character at that time. So if I need to rush in and do something, I am getting myself up for that, but always remembering to stay on the breath. If there is no breath, there is no voice. And I have to make sure that I support it, okay? So I'm always thinking, position. I'm thinking, oi, 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 with my gatherers. I like to call these my gatherers.
Your resonators? Those are beautiful resonators, honey.
And
that mask.
The length of the nose and stretching the nostril and using my energy. I'm thinking of all of that. You know, so I'm a constant voice lesson in my head, but on top of that, I put the character. So yeah, baby, I think it the whole time.
Indra?
Yeah, so I'm different. I I have to let it all go. The only times that that seed came out easily is when I don't think about it. I think pretty much that's what Angela is saying, is you just got to calm me down. That's how I calm myself down. I tend to not think about the vocalisms. I can't at that point, because by that point I'm a little fatigued after singing 2 acts nonstop, back to back. Okay, and then I just have to literally think about me being on the Nile, me being concerned about right. I tend to dive more into the character and just know that the sea is going to come out or not, and there's nothing I can do about it, and I can't worry about it, and it comes out, and it'll be as long as it's going to be, and then we're going to move on with the rest of the opera. And most times I will instruct the conductor not to accept the applause after O Patria Mia. I tell him to keep moving. Let's get to the end, get to the fujam,
Yeah.
and then you can clap and have a release, and then we can finish the rest of the opera. Because for me, I just didn't want to break that momentum. I know people want to clap after the aria. I'm not really interested. Let's just keep it moving, and then you can clap when I take my bow. Thank you.
Clap me all the way through, boo-boo.
But
Ask
you know,
one more thing, just on the fact that you talked about, you know, how the night is going, and Angela mentioned earlier, like the energy of the night. Because I find a lot of times that my Aida definitely varies depending on the other people in the cast and the maestro.
I was gonna say the maestro.
I'm gonna get to that.
Curious.
We're gonna get to that. So,
but Latonia, to answer your question, Aida is the only opera, maybe Zenta, but the only opera that I have angst over. Every other opera, I was like, let's do this. Let's get it. Every other opera I've ever sung has been that way with me. But Aida is the only one. And it didn't start giving me angst until I did more and more and more and more. At first it was like, hey, let's go have some fun. But I just, we'll get to the maestro thing. Okay. But yeah.
yes, we're gonna get, yeah. I think what happens is when you begin to do such an iconic role all over the place, what ends up happening is there's this expectation, and then that expectation begins to gnaw at you.
Yeah.
It's the expectation of the precedence that the role has in the actual canon, and
Right.
it's the precedence of the people who have sung it before you. It's what you put upon yourself of wanting to do the very, 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 very best job that you can. And it's understanding too that you all, up upon all of those other things, you're still human.
Right.
And you're fallible. And I remember talking to you, Indra, some time ago about the role. I think you were overseas somewhere. I don't know where you were. And you were saying, you were asking, why is it so difficult for the conductors, not all, but some conductors, why is it so difficult for them to just not be nice? It's such a difficult role. What is the problem? Why can't we have a working sort of situation where the conductor is being as helpful as possible to make sure that everybody has a win, that everybody comes off looking fantastic? You know, you're the lead role, you're the lead character. So much depending upon you for the night. If you need to take a break during whatever Reggie production it is, why is that not considered? If you need to take truly, if you need to take a break, when you walk into the rehearsal, they're like, okay, this is where we're going to take the break. And you're like, okay, maybe I need a break here. The singer is the last person to be considered. And I'm always curious about that. Why is it that way? Indra.
I found in my times with the Aida, I work with different conductors. First of all, if the conductor knows the Italian style of conducting, it's an easier night, I must say. The ones who are conducting for the first time try to micromanage. I've had the guys who conduct for the first time, and I used to figure out, why are they micromanaging me? I don't understand. And until I asked, have you conducted this before? And the answer is no, this is my first one. And it plays into that thing about what you just said about, this is an iconic opera, and I think they too want to, make their mark in Aida. They want to be the greatest conductor of Aida and all this kind of things. And so I think that kind of thing plays into it as well. But the ones that are easygoing, the ones that kind of follow you, the ones that try to accommodate you as a singer, the ones who have worked with singers and not the symphonic ones that are coming in and haven't really worked in, I wouldn't tell them to do Aida for their first opera. I've had that, and that's annoying when you're looking at the conductor and you see the top of his head, which I've done, a couple of times, and it's like, it's going to be a long night. They won't understand. And so, and I think and I think it's also a little bit of a power struggle sometimes with the conductors. And I can remember, I'm so emotionally attached to all of my performances that I can remember, if I look at the date and the place I sang them, I can look at it and go, oh yeah, that was a good Aida. I remember that one. I felt good about that one. Or, and it's always maybe the conductor.
And what's the distinction? And what is the distinction about the ones that you say to yourself, that was a good one? What made that good?
Most of them were the ones that were more of the Italianated conductors that understood to go to the one, to keep the flow of it going, and keep it more, lucid and light. And it causes you to sing lyrically. So that's very important. So if we're having conductors out there, if you're trying to do this Verdi rep, especially Aida, try to keep it flowing, moving, going, having like an ocean of waves under you, so that everybody can stay lyric, not just the Aida. Right, precisely, Angela. And so that's how I feel. So one guy I really, really loved was Rizzi. He conducted it in Bregenz when I did the Summers of Aidas in Bregenz. The same time you were doing in Bremen, by the way. And I was on a boat too, Latonia. It's hilarious. We can get into that later. If we do stories, that's my favorite story, the Bregenz. Right. But he didn't, I'm sure the orchestra wanted to wallow in that beautiful Verdi sound, but he wouldn't let them. He kept them charging on. And I was like, yes, do it. Because then going up to the sea was just like ice cream. Thank you.
I'm going to say that because you mentioned specifically Carlo Rizzi. He's one of my favorite conductors of Aida. One of my favorite Aidas that I've done was definitely with him. We did Aida in Cincinnati. Actually, that they're playing on the radio on Saturday. Actually,
yeah, okay.
The one that we did in Cincinnati, and I loved him for the same reason, Indra. He was very much another one, Daniele Caligari. I don't know if you know him, but they're very much about momentum.
Right.
And it will save your life in an opera.
Well, it keeps everybody happy. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Miss Angela?
Well, I come from a little different perspective or school or whatever. But I'll answer the question this way. When I go into the rehearsal situation, I always try everything first that the conductor wants me to do. I look at every opportunity for me to sing Aida or whatever. That's my job. My job is to go in there and please my boss. Okay, who is the conductor at the end? I'll try it like that. It don't work. I go, Maestro.
Yeah.
This was so beautiful, but I'm dying a little bit. Can you help me a little bit? I don't have that much breath, sugar. You have to approach it in some kind. Always do. I always try. And then I have the conversation, and it's not in front of everybody. Sometimes.
I wish you'd have told me that years ago. Believe me, that was some advice I needed, Miss Angela. Damn.
Girl, let me tell you, there was times before that I wasn't as, forthcoming and nice and all that.
Thank you for saying that. I feel a lot better.
Honey, no, I've had my moments where I've had to eat crow and be like, okay, but you have to first try to please the conductor, because if it's their first time doing it, or they've done it many times and they have their tempi in their heads, ask for some extra coaches. One compliment that I always got when I was singing at the Met was that, Angela, we are so happy to know that you are not too big to not want to coach. You come and coach all the time. Honey, I may have known Aida or Ariadne or Balo over and over and over again, but if I got somewhere where I can go and coach for free, that role is just going to make it better when I leave that place for another place. So I coach whenever I can.
I'm so glad you said something like that, because there's a lot of young singers who are approaching Aida right now, right? They started into going into the Verdi repertoire. People like Leah Hawkins, she started to study Aida, and you need to make sure that a young Aida knows that it's very important that their things are thoroughly coached, for the very reason that you're going to get in with a conductor, just like you say, and they might have a completely different idea of the tempi, and you have to compromise and you have to work with them. Now, for me, somebody who is notorious for never watching the conductor, this is very important that I have learned it come escrito, and I know exactly what's going on. So that way, when I get into the rehearsals, we can find that balance and that compromise and that agreement and adjust with each other, rather than just forcing each other to do one tempo or the other, right?
Precisely,
So
precisely.
This is a big thing that's amazing to say to young Aida who's just starting. Advice I wish I definitely would have had. It's very crucial that you know your whole part, come escrito, that you've made a clear decision about what it is you want to do before you go in and try to meld it with somebody else's idea.
Precisely.
So,
I used to, another thought, I want to encourage young singers to always, I don't care if you sung Aida, if I go sing Aida tomorrow, you better believe I'm gonna go get coached. I know I've sung a lot of them. You have to have a voice lesson or coaching on your music before you leave, to make sure because you lose a lot of things. I remember I was on the road a lot and I was going from gig to gig to gig, but I will always have to check in because fatigue and tired and missing home and being on the road, going from hotel to hotel to hotel, it messes with you. And so if it's messing with your mind, it's going to mess with your throat. So that's why you always got to check in and making sure that, and I got to agree with Latonia, come escrito is the safest way to learn your music. The safest way, because more likely that conductor is going to be come escrito as well. Come escrito means as written. So whatever's on that, if there is a crescendo on that page, crescendo. If there is a staccato, staccato. If there is a long, beautiful slur mark over a phrase, please do that, because then everybody can already be, half of the work is already done. So yes.
I guess what we're saying is learn your music cheering right.
Yes, correctly. Thank you very much.
I just want to acknowledge that there are some fantastic Aidas that have sung the role a few times in the United States. Miss Michelle Johnson and Lisa Daltiris, to name a few. I think Karen has sung one or two.
Yes, she has.
There are quite a few people who have sung it, quite a few Black girls who have sung it, and new ones that are coming along. And I've got to talk about the issue of Blackness and Miss Price. Some of the difficulty I think that I've heard, that I've been hearing a lot in a lot of talks and a lot of chats is obviously this comparison to her. You can either be Kathy Price or Miss Norman, and it's to me, I feel like it's so detrimental, but I understand I guess why those comparisons come about. A few weeks ago, I had someone on listening to one of my presentations, and the person asked me if I liked Leontine Price, and my topic had nothing to do with Leontine Price at all. And then I wrote back, of course I love Leontine Price. And then the person wrote to me, well, I know you're not a soprano like Leontine Price, but can you sing like her? That was a question that was asked, that was posed to me. I see Miss Indra's getting up. Okay, so can we talk about comparisons? And can we talk about why that can be so detrimental? The reason why I asked all of you here is because you all are so different. And that's the uniqueness of all of you. You all are different. And I just, can you say something about that?
Yes, please let me start. Since
No,
Angela, I have to start because I am related to Aida compared to y'all, and I have to say it because I was compared to the both of you. Now, I face specific instances and where I would go into an Aida and was told, man, you know, Angela Brown was so amazing as Aida. Did you ever hear her Aida while I was in rehearsals? You know, I could call them out. It was at Pittsburgh, okay? And the conductor said to me, wow, did you ever hear Angela Brown sing it? Now, she was fantastic. Man, that would have been great if she was doing it. I said, oh, it would have been amazing. You know, the nigga go home and eat a pint of ice cream now. God damn, how rude, okay? But I've had to hear shit like that for years. And I can't even tell you how many times I've been compared to Indra. I cannot even count. Countless times. Times where I wasn't even singing in the place and I was just an audience member going to support my friends. Oh my God, Indra, great to see you. I was like, I'm Latonia. Oh, are you a singer? Calling out. You know what I'm saying?
Latonia, I can't tell you.
Let me say, the comparisons are endless. You know, oh, are you going to sing it like Leontine? Are you going to be singing like Martina Arroyo? Are you going to do it like Leila Genscher or Tebaldi? Can you do it like that? Well, she's no caballé, but this and that and that. And let me tell you something, and this is, I've said it a million times, and I'm sure some of y'all have heard it before. But when you go on the stage and you decide you're going to sing any role, including Aida, you have to forget about every Aida that came before you. And you most certainly forget about the Aidas that come after. Because if you think it's just being compared to the people of the past, imagine being compared to the people of the future. It's awful. You know what I mean? But you have to deal with that shit. And the biggest thing is you have to be very secure in who you are and how you deliver. You have to be an original person. You have to go from inside and bring something special and unique to your roles. If not, people will always have no choice but to compare you to Angela Brown and Indra Thomas. You know what I mean? It will be constant until you stand your ground and you have your own way of doing it. That way the comparisons will still happen, but they'll be less.
Miss Indra.
No, Angela. She can go.
Okay, Angela. Oh, okay. It's Angela's time.
Well, I hear you, Latonia, but I never thought of it as something negative to be compared to Leontine Price, to be compared to Jessie Norman, because or anyone that was great. That's rarefied air. And no, I'm not trying to fill their shoes, but someone thought that I was good enough to get into their shoes. It's like the difference between a diva and a diva. You know, you want the good connotation of diva. Everybody wants that. And I'm a Christian. You compare me to being Christ-like, but you're not making me Jesus. You know, I ain't on the cross for nobody. Okay. So I never took it as a negative. I can see where them comparing you to me, because I'm more your contemporary. I think that's when we get into the kind of, ooh, you know, that's too close. But if they were saying Price, then that's a different thing to me in my head. Okay.
It's hard because to me, there's no difference because you are a great Aida that came before me. Now, regardless of how famous Leontine Price was for Aida, I regard every Aida that came before me, especially the really great ones like you and like Indra. You know, I put you up here. And so if somebody tells me, you know, oh my gosh, you know, could you imagine if it was that person singing it instead of you?
Well, now if they said it like that, that's a backhanded compliment. That is a backhand. Now, if they were saying it like that, baby, I didn't know that's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what was said. But furthermore, I hear what you're saying, because to be compared to a great is an absolute honor. Of course it is. But when you hear it constantly, it weighs on you, especially if you're a growing artist. How can you stand solid and be your own person if you are constantly compared? It gets hard to swallow, no?
Yeah, I agree.
It would get hard to swallow, but you know, like you said, follow your own good advice and give that advice to these youngins. Honey, be yourself. Be the best you can be. Thank you for comparing me, but you know what? I remember, I'm gonna give you a story real quick. Standing outside in front of the Metropolitan Opera, looking at my poster. I hadn't made my debut yet, and they had just put up my poster and I was covering. And I was standing outside with a friend of mine from church, and I'm looking and I'm reading. These two little men come up and they're reading and they're going like this. Angela Brown? Who the hell is Angela Brown? Yeah, I sang. And now they know who the hell I am. Sing, baby, sing. And they won't be comparing you.
Indra.
Yeah, you know, I always had that, because the problem with a little bit of our voices is that we all kind of, there's certain timbres of our voice that kind of sound alike. So we get that. There's sometimes you hear me, I sound like Leontine. There are other times you hear me, I sound like, to an ear, people's ear, I sound like Jessie or whatever. And it's hard to build, especially as a young singer, trying to develop your craft in the public eye, because that's how we have to do it, because we got to get jobs. And the only way to do that is to work at this job and hope to get another job from that job. And so, but that is like that's the hard part. It's the psychological part of this business, is trying to develop who you are, and like Tanya said, standing your ground. It's interesting. I'm a director of opera at Shorter University in Rome, Georgia, and I tell my students when I do their when I do the opera there with them, that's the first thing I said. Please stand your ground. There's no there's no sensitivity kind of in especially for the big operas or whatever. But so to have that mentality, and it's not in a way that you're not open and receptive to learn and to grow, but there is a certain confidence that you have to have. And it's hard to build that up when you're constantly compared to someone else. You know, of course, we've all had those times when people have said, I had a guy interview me in France who said, do you know Jesse Norman? I said, of course, you know, from the same state. And, you know, he said, wow, do you want to have a Jesse Norman career? I said, as wonderful as Ms. Norman is, and I'm so grateful that she came before me, I really do want to have an Indra Thomas career, because why are we trying to be someone else? My throat is not her throat. Her throat is not my throat. And so I think that as young singers, please develop who you are inside and grow yourself, evolve to your better self. And you can't do that living, it's hard to live in the shadows of, even though we respect, we honor these singers that came before us, and we love them, and we thank God for them, because they paved so many ways for us to do this, especially the Black opera singer. I mean, the things that
I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, because Aida is a Nubian woman, you know, this thing about, you know, obviously Miss Price sort of setting the mold, Miss Bunbury setting the mold, Shirley Barrett, you know, and I think I heard sometime before the other day, Mr. Kenneth Overton is doing this fantastic series about hidden figures, these unknown African American and or African singers who we've never really heard about.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ladies that he played was a lady named Miss Ella Lee, and she just sang so beautifully. And I everything that I could find of her and Camilla Williams, I was constantly listening to, because you know, my voice is a bit different, and so I felt like I needed to sort of, you know, listen to singers that are sort of along my line, you know, of singing the role of Aida. And one thing that sort of like went off in my head is there is a wonderfulness about the diversity in sounds. You can pair different voices with different singers. Everything does not have to sound like what we know as the gold standard, or, you know, of certain repertoire. We don't have to all sound just like that.
No.
And us being, you know, brown people, I mean, in this role with Miss Norman, I mean, what Miss Price says that this role is like our costume. Like, we don't need to put on anything, and we are, you know, who this Nubian woman is. And I often wonder what you all think about when you walk out on stage. And I don't know if that's in your mind. I know it certainly is in my mind, that I don't need to put on anything else. Like, she is me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then we must talk about what that's like for our Caucasian sisters who, or not, or other people besides Caucasians, BOP, POC folks, how they must feel about this role. I know I have my thoughts about it. I know I have my thoughts about Othello. I have my thoughts about it, but how do you feel about this, Indra, about our skin actually being the costume?
Yeah. I think that is a beautiful thing. I'm trying to find a dialogue for this whole thing.
I know. It's so hard. It's so hard.
It's very difficult for me, because when it comes to this art form, and from my perspective, because I did sing Desdemona, you know, and so we know Tanya. And with a white Othello, and it's so, you know, so it's that suspension of belief kind of thing. So for me, I love the fact that she's African. It kind of helps motivate me to sing this role in a very effective way. I agree with that. But I've heard beautiful non-African American singers sing this role just as beautifully as well. And so I think the role itself speaks to, because he wrote it it's so ethereal and so queen-like, the way the passages, the way he wrote it. I just feel that I personally, now if we're going to talk about darkening the skin, I personally don't think that that's necessary. Maybe you want to do a little tan or something. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary, especially if you have the chops to sing the role, because the music, in my opinion, is just more important than you darkening your skin to try to fit something that a casting person visualize. You know, if they cast you, then you should sing it. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. Whomever else they can have their own opinion about it. I totally don't think it's necessary. I mean, I'm not whitening my skin to play, you know, Leonora or Amelia. So why is it necessary for you to darken your skin? I know, because you're trying to say you're an African or whatever, but
Angela,
read the synopsis.
Angela, what do you think about this?
Well, you know, Ethiopia. Today, I did a little research, looking at some images of Ethiopian women. Mm-hmm. One thing about Aida and Radmeus's love is that she was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And she was beautiful. 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 And Ooh, them Ethiopian women are beautiful. The people of the men are beautiful. Honey, everybody's pretty.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when you see the makeup done, and Aida is not so pretty, especially Aminastro's makeup, but we're not talking about him. I'm just gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that right there. But Aida is a beautiful woman, and it I don't have a problem with the makeup. I never saw that as blackface. Blackface goes back to a minstrelese kind of thing where they're using charcoal for the skin and coloring the lips. Now I've been in a opera like that. It wasn't Aida, but it was in France.
I was there. I saw it.
Baby, I got a story. But we're gonna Aida.
I want to hear that story.
We can hear that story.
Jesus.
But I don't have a problem if it's tastefully done. Tastefully done. And a lot of the Ethiopian people are lighter skinned.
Yeah.
Like, my teacher, Virginia Zayani, would tan her because she could tan really dark. So she tanned. And she also gave me these bracelets.
Look at those. Look at that. That's some Wakanda forever right there. That was
Wonder Woman.
Yes. So
that's fantastic.
I don't have a problem with it if it's tastefully done and that heifer can sing. Okay,
that's true.
If I call you a heifer, that means you can sing, honey. You have made it into the group. But if you get up there and you can't sing and you got on some dark makeup, come on.
Strike one, strike two, strike three. You're out.
Strike two.
Get on out of here.
You out.
Sing it down. Sing it down.
You better sing your face off.
And then put on some makeup. How about that?
Miss Latonia, what do you think about this? Our skin being our armor, our skin color being, the costume. And so that gives us a bit of, I guess, leverage, if you want to call it. But now what's happening with the blackface? What do you think about that?
Maybe I feel a little bit differently about it because I don't feel any different about Aida because I go out and I'm already Black, simply because I'm not Ethiopian. I'm not from Africa. I'm an African American, but I'm not actually from there. So there's something in me mentally that has to switch myself to a different culture, just as I would with Madame Butterfly or singing Desdemona or anything else. So because when you look at the story of Aida, I would have never did what Aida done. I mean, I've said this a million times. She's wild, man. She goes back and dies with a boyfriend. I wouldn't have done that shit. I would have gone all the way back to Ethiopia. My father's dead. My mother's dead. My brothers are dead. I gotta go back and rule my country. I was like, right. I love you, Radamez. It was good. It was really, really hot and it was incredible. And I love you, but I have a duty. So that's what I would have done. I would have never gone back to that tomb. But I'm not a 19-year-old Ethiopian princess who's been captured by the Egyptians and fell in love with somebody. I'm not in that situation. So I have to think as if I really did put myself in that situation, as if I was from Africa, an Ethiopian princess, and I was in that situation. So for me, I approach it like I approach any other role. The only role I can say that's felt is close to home, closer to home, like it's actually me, is perhaps, either something like singing Susanna, Carlisle Floyd, or singing Serena. Only because, a person like Serena was in my family. This is my grandmother. This is the sort of woman she was and the way she reacted to things completely to a T. So that I can relate to in a very personal way. And me looking like my grandmother made me feel like the role automatically. That gave me a leg up. But I can't say the same for Aida. Because there's nothing about me naturally as a person that sees myself as regal or royal or anything. I'm way more laid back, a little bit on the ghetto side. And so that's not natural for me. I have to turn it on. Now, that being said, let's get to the issue of the makeup, which everybody's addressed. When I went to Tokyo, they colored me blacker. They made me darker for Aida, okay? And there have been places where they made me lighter for Aida. They've made me lighter for Desdemona, or lighter to do Ballo, and darker to do certain roles. I mean, I'm a chameleon. I'm in this business for the art of it, not for Latonia more personally to have an opinion about the way people look in their makeup. Makeup has never bothered me. One of my favorite Aidas ever, my very favorite living Aida is Aprila Milo. When I
Yes.
first saw her was, of course, on that notorious 1997 or something like that production from the Met of the new Aida, the Sonia Frizzell, as you can see on the poster back there with Angela, the Sonia Frizzell production, right? So I saw this on TV. I didn't think anything of her makeup. She seemed like an Ethiopian princess to me. This woman was in the zone. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And she seemed more Ethiopian at the time than I could have ever imagined being, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, you know, do what you need to do to feel like your character. And if other people are offended by it, that's their personal things. And as much as you have to suspend disbelief by looking at somebody who looks like something different, you also need to suspend your personal opinions about stuff outside of art when you come in to see an opera, right?
Yes.
I feel this wholeheartedly. So you go in and you see somebody like Anna Netrebko, who, you know, usually goes and does a tan. That's what she prefers rather than doing dark makeup, by the way, for Aida. She prefers to go get a tan, okay? And I thought she looked incredibly beautiful. I thought she looked gorgeous. She did her thing to be in the role. And I remember when I saw the video of it, it was a new role for her. She was still negotiating and things, but she did her best to throw herself into it and become this African princess, have this nobility that sometimes you don't see her have in other roles. And I really commended that. She tried very hard to be something close to what the character was, regardless of body paint or anything like that. You know, so I think a lot of times, you know, it's really okay. You know what I mean? Whatever you want to do is what you want to do. However, if you want to hear Latonia's personal opinion about it, I've seen some busted makeup jobs. Okay. Now, Angela already touched on the fact that she's seen some busted looking Amanaz. Okay. And I mean, I've seen some incredibly bad makeup jobs. Now, aside, you know, from somebody trying to make somebody white darker, it's just as bad trying to make somebody black lighter. I remember one of the first roles I ever did is Santuzza, and they put me, I looked like Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, made my face white. I said, why are you doing this to me? She said, well, I have to whiten your face or they won't be able to see you.
And I'm like, excuse me, don't we have amazing lighting designers? Hire one. Come on.
Some of your Amanazros are on here, Mr. Lester Lynch and Kevin Short. And I think there's some others that are on there. They're all in agreement with you all. I don't know, ladies. I feel like, I'll say, for instance, when it comes to Otello, I feel the first time that I went to the Metropolitan Opera and I saw that the tenor walked out on stage and had no makeup on at all, I felt some type of way about it. And I felt some type of way about it because I understand who the character of Otello is. I understand that those Spanish Moors or those dark men were amazing scientists. They were amazing navigators. They were amazing warriors. And we are somehow taking away that that greatness from them. Many people don't know history. So when the first time that I ever saw Otello on stage and I saw that, my teachers made me look up what the Moors, or who the Moors were, and what they founded, and what they studied, and how they helped to truly make science understandable for us. They were incredible scientists, and I thought by taking that person's Blackness away was somehow stripping us of the history that is attached to those people who did so much. So much of our history is tainted and watered down.
Mm-hmm.
Yet
Mm-hmm.
when you go to Spain and you go to their churches or whatever you want to call them, don't tell me that they're not inspired by Muslims. Don't tell me that they're not, because they are. So why are we taking that away from these people? Or, you know, or Meyerbeer, you know, his L'Africain, like, really, you're gonna call it like Goyekes or something like that? Like, we're stripping slowly but surely, we are stripping the darkness or the Nubianness or the Africanness from these operas. And these men who wrote these librettos and these books, they understood that that was actually part of history. Like, people don't know that Pushkin was part Black. You know, I mean, we are, and this is my opinion, and people might not like it. I don't consider a Caucasian or Asian woman or whoever bronzing. I call it bronzing their skin. I don't have a problem with that at all, because I don't have a problem with it. To call it minstrelsy and to call it blackface was what
There's a difference between people being artists and people who mean to offend with it. And I feel like a lot of times when people are coloring their skin within an opera or something like that, I never think that they mean offense. Now, I could be naive in thinking this way, but it's an artistic choice. It's not offense. I mean, I remember the first butterfly I did, they definitely lightened my skin. And no, I didn't look Japanese, but perhaps I looked maybe from the Philippines, the islands, some kind of Oriental island look. And let me tell you, it felt amazing to look like that because I felt Japanese. I felt like this geisha that was going out as a 15-year-old on her wedding day. And because I felt that way, the audience believed me. So I feel like if you take away the Blackness of Otello, regardless of the real ethnicity of the person singing it, you do the art a disservice, you do the story a disservice, and your audience.
I mean, Angela, I mean, for me, I don't know. I really took offense to it when I saw that Othello, when he came out looking white. Well, he was white. I mean, I really took offense to it. And I really felt that when young kids go to school and they are gifted the opportunity to go to a dress rehearsal of an Othello or an Aida, there are booklets that students have to read before they go out. And they are examining the quasi-history of the opera, and they're also gelling the characters from the opera into what we know as real life. And it is a way of teaching history. And I feel that the Metropolitan Opera and everywhere right now is doing a disservice with this fight with this blackface thing. I really don't know where to go from it, but I'd like Angela to speak a little bit more about it.
Well, I mean, and I agree. It's about having your makeup tastefully done and then telling the story, having the throat, telling the story, and having good people that will direct it correctly. Because if they're coming out there with no makeup on, who is making that decision?
Right, why would Iago really? Why does he really hate Othello? Why? Why does he really hate him? Exactly. Exactly. We have completely erased it all. And I believe that our allies, some white folks, are taking it too far. I'm sorry, they're taking it too far when it comes to this blackface thing. I have a problem with that. Indra, you want to say something?
No, I'm good. No.
Okay.
I agree. I'm listening and soaking in everything that you're saying. And what we do is art, and for the art form, it just have to make sense for the art form. And tastefully done makes it tastefully done as makeup wise, staging wise, musically, can sell this further than then it can go much further into the hearts and minds of the audience. So I don't, it's a difficult.
It is a difficult thing. I mean, if you are a geisha, if it's a traditional production, I would assume that I would be lightened. If you watched the new documentary on Maria Callas, her entrance, Butterfly's entrance scene is on the new documentary. And Miss Callas they really whitened her face, you know, to give her the effect of being a geisha. I had no problem with it at all. When I've seen Mirella Freni in that fabulous production, I think it's a Ponel production with her and Placido Domingo, I had no problem with that at all because I was so entranced with their singing, you know? But we have to be really, really careful of this slippery slope of erasing Blackness from everything. I don't know. I know there are some new articles that have come out with people who look like us, who are all for banishing it all. But I'm sorry, I have a problem with it. Latonia?
You know, it's really hard because
She's stuck.
Latonia froze. Hello,
She
Latonia. She froze.
Yeah, it's just modern technology. Modern technology. We know how that goes.
Yeah.
Before I know she'll come back. She'll probably tap out and then come back. Ladies, you were speaking about some stories. Well, I have a question.
Okay.
About accepting the role of Aida. How has that positively and or negatively affected your career or careers, I would say?
I did pretty good.
You did pretty good.
I did pretty good.
Okay.
It has taken me all over the world. I mean, having the opportunity to make my debut at the Metropolitan Opera, end up on the front page of the New York Times, and then
amazing,
all the magazines after that. And I mean, the beat goes on, and then having recordings, and it's done nothing but help my career. So it's been glad you're back, girl. Nothing but help my career, and I've been blessed because of it. And it's helped me to continue forward.
Yeah.
Miss Indra?
Of course, I'm with Angela. I mean, I don't think my career would have been anywhere close to what it was without Aida. And I appreciate and very grateful for this and being known as it's so prestigious to be known as one of the Aidas. And I'm always amazed. I'm always shocked that, and then it's like, oh, I did a thing. And it's like, oh yeah, I did that. And it's just, I'm always so overwhelmed with the fact that this is one of the roles that I'm known for. And it's like, yay, I get to leave a little bit of a legacy. Hey. And that's so right. I'm very excited about that. And yeah, like Angela, this role is taking me all over the world. And Mr. Verdi has been very kind to me. And I'm so grateful that he wrote, because I feel like he wrote from my throat. And I'm so happy that he had these operas that could help me express what was in my heart and in my soul. You know, I grew up in a church, and, you know, a lot of my church members were like, why do you want to sing opera? You know, and it was most in the beginning. Now they understand. But it's because it spoke to down to my bone marrow, does. And so look, young singers, if this speaks to your bone marrow, goes past your soul, guess what? This is what you're supposed to be doing. So everything that you have, everything in your life needs to move towards that. Who you deal with, who you talk to, the jobs you take, what church you attend, everything needs to go towards this career. And that's how you kind of, you know, get started in this. But that's a side. I digress. But this Aida has been a blessing to me in more ways than one.
Wow, Latonia, you left a little bit. My question was,
I'm not sure the exact question.
Say again.
I'm not sure of the exact question since I, you know.
Yes, I was saying, has this is a question that I posed to my generations talk to African American men in opera. Has Aida been a rose or a thorn, or rose and thorn? Has it been a negative and or positive thing for you for your career?
Well, obviously a little bit of both, because when you come into Aida the way I ended up doing it, which was in 2012, a lot of people thought that it was because of the big splash that I made at the Met that I became this big Aida, but it was twofold. It was that, but it was also the 2012-13 season that was coming up with, 2013 was 200th anniversary of Verdi's birth. So since I made the debut when I did, it was just kind of by default that I ended up being the Aida for that period of time, especially. You know what I mean? So it catapulted me, a role that, you know, I at first was very hesitant about, but then eventually, of course, it made me. You know, I can't pretend like it didn't, you know, and you know, and I'm not shy to say that I'm one of the best at it around now. You know what I mean? But the only way that ended up happening is because it took me time to actually own and accept the fact that I could and not sing Aida and that I actually was meant for it. You know, when I figured out that I was meant for it, I became much more grateful, and it was a rose more than it was ever a thorn before. You know, just for that, you know, it gave me this this confidence that I didn't have before, and I really should have, but didn't have it until I came into doing a role where I was playing an actual princess in captivity that had to hide strength and then show it when necessary. It forced me, Latonia, to be a different kind of diva, a different kind of opera singer when it came to other roles. You know, I applied, you know, what I learned from being Aida to everything. You know what I mean? And I'm so devastated that I don't get to do this new production at the Met, that it had to be canceled, you know, due to the pandemic. You know, but it's okay, you know, because when it comes down to it, you know, if the production happens next year, the year after, or whatever year it's going to happen, I'm ecstatic to revisit Aida. I mean, the last time I did it was 2 seasons ago in 2018, you know, and I've grown so much aside from being an artist, just as a person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a mother since I've started doing Aida. I've been married since I'm doing Aida. It changed my life in gigantic ways. I owe a lot to that and to Verdi, you know, with both Indra and Angela. You know, it wasn't just Aida that we sang the Verdianas. I was even talking to Angela before about Malo and Masta.
That's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to talk about.
You know, there are so many great operas for a good Verdiana. As long as you've accepted, you know, yes, I'm a Verdiana. I am good with going and traveling the world and singing these roles, because we were given certain voices. And you can try to deny that you have that sort of voice all you want, but your gift is your gift. And if you lay yourself into it and accept what it is, like I have, and like Indra, and like Angela Brown, then you'll feel fulfillment in a career like this. Maybe Aida's not the role for you. Maybe your role of, you know, your dreams, and the best thing for you is Mimi. Maybe the best thing is Traviata. Maybe it's Tosca. Who knows what that thing is? But go ahead and accept what you actually are. Don't try to deny it because you think it's too heavy for you, or because too many people did it before and you're afraid to be compared to them. That doesn't matter in the end. You were put here to do a certain thing. Go ahead and let these composers, you know, give you the vehicle to let your gift shine. You know, I feel like more fulfillment in my career having sung Verdi, because I've always considered myself simply a Puccini soprano, and just for Verismo and things like that. And then finally, when I came into the world of Verdi, the early Verdi roles I did was like Simon Boccanegra, I did Hernani, Louis Foscari, things like that, you know what I mean? But once I kind of like broadened my horizons and accepted what kind of voice I have and the way it was developing, I felt like I could do more than I ever could before. You know what I mean? I wasn't afraid to step into even more genres, go into light Wagner, go into the French rep, go into, you know, Mozart. You know what I mean? I'm like, I could probably jump into anything and give it a shot. Wherever you feel like your voice lies, wherever your voice is singing and you feel like it's happening, that's you. You know, so Aida became me, and I'm grateful for life for it, because even after I die, you know, even after we all do, the three of us will be in the history books for Aida. We're there forever. So it's up to all of you divas past us that are taking on things like Aida and all the Verdi roles. You have to carry on the legacy. You know, don't let it die. Don't let it stop there. You know, and I think, you know, maybe I speak for a lot of sopranos who sing Aida, you know, we want to encourage the younger singers to do it for that very reason. This art form has been around for about 400 years or so. You know what I mean? And the only way it keeps going is for us to pass on the knowledge like we're doing right now. Thank you, Laquita. I mean, seriously, you know, this is a beautiful thing to happen because you think about how many young singers are not sure whether or not they want to try whatever role, not just Aida. They're not sure if they want to try it. It's important to hear from people like us, you know, who've been through it, who've experienced it, who have not, it's not been easy, as you have all heard tonight. You know, it has not been easy. It's been a rough road. Take these tips that you've heard tonight, apply it to your own lives, and I mean, believe me, you'll be a richer artist for it.
Yeah. My question is about the other roles that you all sing that I know you sing so beautifully. I was listening to some of your things, some of your clips, and I was like, oh my God, Angela, is she really gonna sing this damn Trovatore? This Bob, like, are you really gonna sing like that? Like, you,
because
you know that you all have
the throat.
Right. You have excelled in other things, and I'm wondering, I guess because you've excelled in the role of Aida, have companies or conductors, do they, for some reason, I don't know, they feel like if you just sing that role, that sometimes I hear, they don't think you can sing anything else, which is so ridiculous to me. How are you able to sort of push that? Like Angela, like, let's say if you ever auditioned, would you even consider singing an Aida aria, or would you just go in and sing, I don't know, the role, maybe if they were casting for Hernani or whatever, you know, would you sing the role, the aria from that opera? Because you're a known Aida. There should be no reason why that you should be auditioning with that art, with those arias, especially when you know.
Well,
I
would
know.
you tell them that, please?
I know.
Honey, I have my five aria package, okay? And I am a Verdiana, and I sing, you know, what's on my package. But the thing is that singing Aida has afforded me so many opportunities to sing other genres of music, other repertoire, and I've had 2 operas written for me. So, you know, I'm enjoying singing all of that because it goes right back to the training and singing things lyrically. If you have it, you have it. Some things you can't teach. It is something you can't teach. You have to kind of learn. Sometimes you have to learn. I was born with it, and I'm not afraid to say I've got it all. But I know how to share, okay? And I know how to give of myself. And when you are singing, putting on the characters of all these heroines that you have to sing every night, whether it's Amelia, whether it's Aida, whether it's Tosca, whether it's Elisabetta from Don Carlo. I mean, whomever it, Ariadne, you have to put on a graciousness for that character. So to say, if I was to go into an audition and if I would sing Aida, I would be honored to sing her because she helped to usher me into whatever this career has been. I'm blessed. And I always I bow down to my Miss Aida.
Miss Indra, other roles that you love to sing besides Aida.
I really enjoyed Amelia and Leonora in La Forza del Destino. Those are my favorite of the Verdi. And not that I'm sure people would think that maybe Aida is, not that I don't like Aida. If I had to go sing some more Verdi, I would love to do Ballo and Forza. I thoroughly enjoyed singing Desdemona. It was just beautiful. It's just those roles. They have so much. There's so much soul in them, and beautifulness, and it fit my personality, which fit my voice so well. And so those are the roles I really would love to revisit if I had a chance to.
What about you, Miss Latonia?
When it comes to Verdi roles specifically, vocally, my best Verdi role is Desdemona. But my favorite one to do is Aida. How cliche in an Aida discussion, but I mean, it's my favorite one of all of them to do. And I've done maybe 7 or 8 Verdi roles, but it remains my favorite. However, my very favorite role to sing is not a Verdi role at all. I mean, it's you already know what it is, Laquita. But my very favorite role to sing is Madame Butterfly. It's the one that I have cultivated.
That's the one. That's the one. Man, I love that.
That's the one.
Boo, I don't have the knees for that.
Yes. But you sing that so well, Latonia.
Yes, you sing it so well.
It's my favorite. And I love everything you do, but that butterfly.
That butterfly is.
Yes,
it's really amazing. Angela, can you tell me, if you can think about it, the craziest story that you can tell me about your experience singing the role of Aida? Now, there have been many. You ladies were chit-chatting earlier on before we went live about some of these productions that you all have done.
Okay.
And I could like die listening.
Okay. Now, all right. I got a couple and I'm trying to make it fast so the other ladies can jump in there. But there was this one that maybe you ladies have done that it was at the end of its run and it was in Europe. I'm trying not to out folk. And it was placed in a fundamentalist church. And Aida was a maid. And at the beginning of the opera, they pulled a body. It's in a church. So there's a baptistery in the middle of the thing. And they had pulled a body out of the baptistery and they had drug it on the floor. Well, by the time Aida comes on, Aida's the maid, okay? She has to go out there on her hands and knees before she sings. Okay, she's got to go out there and wipe up the water so nobody else would slip. She the maid, okay? So I then have to get up. I'm tired. I literally have to get this water up off the floor and I see this heifer off in the wings with a mop and she's mopping it up. And I'm like, well, why can't Aida have a mop? Why does Aida have to be on her hands and knees? Anyway, I digress. So I get up, I sing all the elements in this opera. She was a maid. Her father was a pedophile. And all during the father-daughter duet, he's trying to molest her. And okay, then there was in the triumphal scene. Let me go back one act. In the triumphal scene, Aida has to come out with a recycling bucket to clean up after the cherry pie eating contest. Okay, so during the ballet, I'm cleaning up and I have to go on the music, cleaning up everything, boom, into the recycling bin. Then the coup de grace, baby, the coup de grace is at the end. And I mean, there's so much more I could tell you about that particular one, but it was at the end, child, when Radames has to baptize Aida, but he drowns her. Aida dies, he doesn't die. And then when it's time for me to take my bows, I didn't realize at the time that I was gonna have to be totally wet. I'm wet, real water. Okay, nasty water too. Real water. I'm backstage. Them little women stripped me down and patted dry my nether regions. I was like, ah! Then they had to put on clothes and I had to go out there and took clothes too big to take a bow. Okay, that's one. Then number 2 was when I was in another place in the same country we won't talk about. And I was singing with a very famous tenor. I've had a lot of beautiful, wonderful tenors that I've sung with, but this was a very famous one, very famous one. So, and I'm sitting on this bed that's in the middle of the stage. And I'm singing, trying to seduce him. And they have me laying back and I take my foot and I'm going up his arm.
His leg, his arm.
As my leg went up, a little gas escaped. And I was totally apologizing to him. But when he said, oh, Angela, it's okay, I realized we had to be eating at the same place because his breath smelled like that poop. And then I'm through.
Oh my God. Okay.
And I got a whole lot more stories like that, but I'll digress. I'll leave that alone. Those are my I'm sorry, but that was the truth. Ah! Welcome to live opera.
It's live theater. That is live and that's real. Indra, any crazy stories?
Those were really good, Angela. I don't know if I can top them. The one in Breggins was my favorite crazy one. They had me a bag over my head. You know, a lot of the cast directors saw you as a slave. And so they treated me and I had to act. I was like, I'm not really a slave. I'm just playing a slave on television. Anyway, so so one of the guys, he wanted me to have a bag over my head and the whole opening scene, I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And so that was one. My beautiful friend Arnold Rawls and I were was in my
yes, Arnold Rawls. He's here.
Sweaty, love me some Arnold. Spitty, sweaty.
Arnold Rawls here.
So Arnold and I were in it was called a death boat, and so they brought this boat around because Breggins is outdoors in the water. Okay, so my contract said I had to know how to swim. So anyway, yeah. So, but anyway, I didn't get out the boat. I didn't drown, obviously. But we were in this boat, and then we had to be lifted like, I don't know, 10 stories off the ground. It was so high. All of the stuff cut out. I don't know if our microphones cut out. That was one thing. But I was in Carolina Opera in Charlotte, and the ones that have the animals are the most interesting of the stories. So I'm in the triumphal scene and they're parading these animals out. I don't like animals because they poop on stage, guaranteed. And you know, the third act, Aida's on the floor the entire time. And so I'm like, and so you gotta restage with after the animals, because it's like if the poop center stage, you gotta go, you know, stage right. So avoiding, now it becomes a game of avoiding the poop on stage. So the poor little, they had all these really bizarre animals, a Watutsi, a camel, a show elephant, and a zebra. And so the zebra comes out with his handler and he loses his footing right in front of me. And I'm looking at him and the zebra's looking at me and his eyes are all big and he's trying to get himself together and his handler is doing it. I just politely moved up stage so that he could take out the mezzo. I don't even know who the mezzo was on that thing. So yeah. And then South Africa, they had the lions next door to the horses, and they're giving them a steady diet of horse meat off stage. And I'm like, y'all are out of control. What is going on? So I made sure that I was way upstage where the animals were away from. So if anything popped off, I had my escape route. And so, yeah.
So that's a little bit of information that future Aida needs to really consider. Please stay away from the animals. Yes. Miss Latonia. Latonia, I've heard a few stories, but before we get to Latonia, one of the great experiences I had in Augusta, Georgia, with the late great Miss Jessie Norman. Miss Norman listened to us as we prepared for this benefit concert that we were going to do for her, and she decided that she was going to coach. And Miss Indra was going to sing Ritorna Vincitor, and the pianist, Miss Dr. Rosalind Floyd, was playing Indra's tempo. And I'll never forget Miss Norman saying, "Please stop. These are kings and queens. They will proceed slowly." And I looked at Indra, and Dr. Ross said, "Okay." Bum, bum, bum. I mean, it was a dirge. Bum, 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 bum. It was the slow. Yes, Marcus Bean was there. We died laughing. I was so afraid for Indra, Miss Indra sang that Ritorna Vincitore in front of the late great Miss Jessie Norman, and she took the tempo that Jessie Norman would have sung
As one
had
would
she
do.
been singing. Exactly. Miss Norman was not playing around. She was like, these are kings and queens. And so they proceed and they walk slowly. They're wearing jewels. They're wearing gowns. They must walk slowly and regally. And I just thought, oh my God, how is she going to get through this? It was the funniest thing ever. Sorry, I digress. Miss Latonia.
Well, that's all the way hilarious and awesome at the same time.
I know.
So, I mean, these divas so far have told such funny stories. And of course, I know the production that Angela was speaking of, so I'll just leave that out.
Oh my
But,
God.
Girl, you
but
did that.
I mean, look, I've had some crazy things happen. I mean, as far as animals, there's been, snakes, hawks, horses, camels, all kinds of stuff, you name it. I remember being in Tokyo, and one thing that they do with the horses, like at the Met, I was like, why aren't the horses pooping on stage and everything? And they said, well, we de-poop them. So they give them enemas first, and they don't feed them. So they actually starve the horses so that they don't have accidents on stage, which makes them a little bit irritable. So when I went to Tokyo, they had the horses there, and the horses, they were beautiful. I was like, oh my God, I love horses, because I really do love horses, right? The horses go, I go on stage and I have the little pillow that Aida carries with the laurel and everything on it. And then smell something. And I'm way up in the top on the set, with Amneris. And I'm like, Marianne. It was Marianne Cornetti. It was Amneris. I said, Marianne. She said, don't say it. The smell was hellacious. And it was coming from the side of the stage. And obviously those horses pooped. They did not de-poop those horses. Those horses got no enemas. They were going au naturel, people. And you know what it smelled like? When you have a night of drinking?
Oh God,
take that food. Those horses had been drinking. I guarantee you.
Oh God.
Fermented.
Something strong. Bourbon.
Barley.
Who knows? But they were laying down the law with that dookie.
Yeah.
And it is unforgettable.
And it's all
and you're watching this girl, you're the only one that knows that toxic scent like I do. And I mean, it is unforgettable. It is still in my nose. I'm recalling it as we speak. But look, aside from that, I've had to do some pretty shitty things. Give a pedicure on stage to Amneris. I'm hemming dresses up, and I got on the yellow gloves and I'm scrubbing up puke after the party in the second act. I'm cutting my hair on stage. I'm ODing on pills. I mean, you name it. The craziest things you can think of as Aida, I've probably done it. Amneris comes out and she's an alien. She's got a big old alien head. I'm like, what the hell is going on in this world? But I guess when so many Aidas happen all the time, directors feel like they have to do something different. And they're willing to cross the wrong line to be different. And as it is, I'm a chameleon, I'm an artist, and I'm put into a production and I'm like, okay, I'm game, I'll go ahead and try it, you know what I mean? Like Angela was saying, about conductors, she's like, I will try their tempi and I'm gonna compromise and stuff. I'm willing to try it, but I tell you what, I can only take so much. And believe you me, I walked out of many a rehearsal in protest of just how bad it can get. These new productions and these new things that they want your character to do, you know what I mean? But I mean, you name it, I've probably done it. Do it swinging, do it hanging upside down. Do I either running on a treadmill? Did y'all do that production? It's in Sydney. You have to run on a treadmill.
Why?
You're already out of breath standing still. Can you imagine being on a treadmill having to sing?
Weird.
It was a gorgeous production, I'll say, though. One of my favorite that I've ever done. It was beautiful. And I lost 15 pounds when I was done.
Of course you did. You already lose weight singing the role, add a treadmill to it.
Oh my God. Angela, can you tell me, name just a few of your favorite artists that you had the opportunity to work with while singing the role of Aida?
Roberto Alagna. I went on with him at the Met. Greg Baker. Him, the daddy. my opera daddy. He was the first person I ever did anything professional with that was a professional himself. There's so many. And I've just enjoyed and loved my time with all my colleagues. I worked with Salvatore. Oh, I'm getting ready to
Laquita.
Thank you. He was one that I had to get with though, because we were, I think, doing a production of Aida in Bilbao, and he didn't really know me. And it was something that we had to jump in and do quickly. So he was on stage. I think we were in I can't remember what act that was, but the tomb scene. And the director was telling me one thing, and then he's trying to direct me at the same time. And I had to promptly let him know, boo, he's the one's getting paid to be a director. Calm down. I can't listen to, I can't halt between two opinions. I'm gonna get out there and die with you, sugar. Just wait a minute. Wait on it. You know.
Okay.
So, you know, but I enjoyed working with him. There's this, that's on the, see, now y'all had a chance to think.
I know.
It's so many that I've just loved working with throughout the years. So
really, Indra.
Marianne Cornetti.
Yes.
I know that's I love her. Mary's gonna kill me. She's a twin.
Mary Phillips.
Fantastic. Sorry. Her name, Mary Phillips. I enjoyed working with her. I enjoyed working with Salvatore Laquita. I thoroughly enjoyed Roberto Alagna. I cannot not say Arnold Rawls. He just makes the gig fun, you know. I enjoy working with Kevin Short. I enjoy working with Lester Lynch, Quinn
Kelsey.
I can't remember people's name, but I remember their faces. I know people. Don't get mad if I don't remember quite people.
You talk about 300, so it's okay.
Yeah.
If you forget, you know what I mean.
And I only remember two.
Yeah.
Barbara Depp. Love Barbara Depp.
I did it with Carlo Ventri. I enjoyed working with him. I had to jump in Atlanta one time, and I had to do it with Mark Delavan, and I just loved working with him. He's a hoot. Greg Baker.
Yeah.
He sings a lot of Porgy's though. What's his name? Okay, he lives in Arizona. I just see his face, but I can't remember. Gordon Hawkins.
Yeah.
How do I know that he lives in Arizona? I'm so silly.
Right.
Yeah, those off the top of my head. I was just trying to think real quick. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. What about you, Latonia?
Oh, this is so hard because y'all named so many of the people that I could have already named. You know what I mean? So I won't rename all of them, but just because I have to go with my very favorites, which was really your question, I'm gonna name just two. The first one I'm gonna name is an omneris I had, and the reason why this was significant is because when I actually made my debut singing Aida at the Met, it was to replace the soprano Violetta Ormandy, because she had done a run and she canceled the last two performances. So I got to do the last one and she was Aida. So I remember I was pregnant with my son. I did 3 performances pregnant of Aida. And when I got the baby out, I did 1 performance in the spring of 2017. And my omneris was Violetta Ormandy. Now, well, it was juicy because this was, even though I love her. Oh my God, I just absolutely adore her. And she's nothing fantastic. But supportive of me. We used that energy, that weird energy of, our situation to our advantage on that stage. And it was hot fire. Wow. It actually was an unforgettable pairing, because I've had some great omneris. We already named Marianne, and she knows she's one of my very favorites. Nadia Kraskova, you know what I mean? There are some really, really incredible ones. Even Anita, but for me, working with Violetta doing that was unbelievable. Now, and I'll go to the role of Amanazro. You know, I've had great reminiscences, of course, you know, Roberto, y'all names, Carlo, you know what I mean? Like a lot of really great ones. And I love Mark Delavan for Amanazro. I love Gordon. I mean, I really do love so many. But if I had to just pick one other person that I'm just hot fire with in any Aida, no matter where we've done it, any piece of it, it's Lester Lynch. Now, I will say that it's not because, you know, just because he's such an incredible vocalist, you know, and an incredible performer, but we have a chemistry that was just instant. I can't really explain it. Sometimes you just click with people on stage and you click with them off stage and you just have an understanding about each other. That person for me would be Lester, hands down, than anyone else. And you know, I love the rest of y'all, but we
absolutely.
Laura Zajic.
Delora!
Oh, baby.
Yes, Delora. She gets you, man. She'll get you straight in that duet, man.
Delora had me pumping.
She gets you together in that duet. I love working with her.
And that thing she does with her finger, thumb, and it's like, where all that voice come from? Yeah.
That's amazing.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
As we begin to wrap up, I know we can chat for a long time. I want you ladies to think about your first Aida compared to your last Aida. What would you tell that day one Aida? As the last Aida, what would you tell that first Aida? And vice versa. What advice would you give those two different women, different years, different days? What would you tell them? What would you say? Just think about it for just a second. What would you think? What would you say? And then the next question after that would be, what advice, after we are done here with this COVID thing, if God is willing, what advice do you have for the opera world as it pertains to casting? I'll come back to that question. And I want you to think about it, because I believe that after a certain year, there was a blockade on the Black women singing Aida. There was a stop, and it was very, very visual. Save for, I think, Francesca's production, there were no new productions coming out after that. And I believe that there was a bit of a stop or blockage of African-American and or African singers singing the role as often as it was prior to certain years. I believe that there was a stoppage. And then in came tons of Eastern Bloc singers, the Caucasian singers. I believe that there was a block and a stoppage. And, but that's the second question. But the first question is, what would your last Aida tell your first Aida? What would that woman say to that other woman? Angela?
Relax. You are enough. You have studied to show yourself approved. A surgeon doesn't go into a surgery and look at the patient and say, "Ooh, I hope I do a good job." This is your job. Get out there and do your job, baby. You have studied. You are prepared. Now let the party go on. Go on, do your part. Now, as far as, and the second question, are you gonna come back?
I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna come back to that. Good. Indra, what would that last Aida say to that first Aida? What would she say?
For me, it'll be more the first Aida to say something to the last Aida, which would be, you got this, calm down, relax, you know, because it became such a iconic kind of role for me that it became, like you said, maybe more almost like a thorn in the last part.
Instead of a rose.
But so the pressure of, you know, being that, you know, living up to that role and to the last performance of would I get in my head too much, whereas I wasn't in my head so much when I was a younger kid. I was just like, let's do this, you know. And so my younger self would give my older self advice, because to relax, there are a lot of personal things that went on in my life that got me into a almost like a knot. And so that knot was there that wasn't there in the beginning of my career. And so I want my older self to be as free as I mentally and physically as I was when I was my younger self. Yeah.
What about you, Latonia?
It's a hard question because that first Aida I did, I was a replacement for somebody else. So I just learned it really fast, like in a week and a half, and threw it up there. You know what I mean? So I guess I just have to go from some of the earlier Aidas I have rather than just the first one. So the last Aida that I did in Argentina a couple of years ago, I would tell, you know, the girl from Bremen or Hamburg, Minnesota, the earlier productions that I did, it's not just about the notes. Please don't worry so much about the notes. Don't forget that you're a person. Do what you usually do. Create a character. If you only focus on the notes, then it'll just be you singing at people and not to them, and not bringing a character to life. So yes, the notes are hard, but if you focus only on them, you're dead in the water. So please, don't forget you're Aida, not just a soprano singing the role. You are her. Be her, things will be easier.
And ladies, what do you think about that second question? How can the opera industry go forward now and think about things just a little bit differently in terms of their casting of the role? I would say here in the United States, I've seen it. There's been sort of like a stoppage of Black women being cast. How is there any way? Because I know that if and when Porgy ever comes back to the United States, there needs to be a conversation before Porgy is done. After everything that we have been through, and we're still going through this, they call it the Arab Spring. We're going through the American Summer, is what they call it, where revolution is happening and everyone is thinking about things a lot differently in terms of casting. And a lot of companies are having to look at the way that they've cast and why they haven't had certain people back after having them for predominantly Black roles. How do we go forward in our industry and sort of celebrate the uniqueness that is Americanism, that is such a precedent that so many American singers have set forth with this role? How do we go forward now with our casting of it? And will it be necessary for these companies to have their singers, whether they be white, if they're white or other, not Black, white or other, bronzing them as we call them, or not putting on any makeup at all? Like, how do they go forward now in this new sort of space and time, when if anybody from these companies are watching, they'll see that Black people feel a lot different than some of our white brothers and sisters about this face painting and all that stuff. I mean,
I just wanted to make one quick comment, almost like a part of a question, especially because I want to ask Angela and Indra about it. But I feel like one reason why they've been more hesitant to hire more Black singers to sing Aida in America is because they don't want Black singers to feel like they've been compartmentalized and pigeonholed, you know? And so I think they've made a conscious effort not to do it, because I definitely for a while requested not to do Aidas. I said, I don't want to take too many more of them. I want to branch out and sing some other rep just as out there, you know, just to do some other stuff. But I feel like some companies, they have, you know, steer clear from it, just out of, you know, almost a respect to Black singers, to try to see them in other things, and not so that we don't feel used for just one thing. But yeah, I would love to hear what y'all have to say.
one of the, I think you're absolutely right in that, in that regard. But like Corgi, what it does is it somehow, these casting agents have amnesia and don't quite understand that Black singers can sing other things besides Aida and Corgi. So I just wonder how you might feel about that, Angela, going forward, as we go forward.
I think opera companies need to hire what they see in their communities, okay? And if you're only in a white community, then you need to branch out, okay? You need to hire the peoples of the world, the colors of the world. We are all on one palette. We have, I mean, if you're making stew or you're painting a picture, it can't just be one stroke. It has to be multifaceted. So hire the melting pot, because that's what America is. And Latonia, to speak to your question about opera companies maybe not hiring Black female performers for the role of Aida, because they're showing some type of homage and letting them know, no, this ain't the only thing we think you can sing. I'd be like, boo, let me sing. Let me sing. Give me the opportunity to get up there first, because let's think about this business-wise. Aida and Porgy and Bess is going to put butts in the seats, and they're always going to be in the Black. Okay? If I can be in that number, let me march on in, and then let me show you what else I can do. You know, that's the way I feel. I know that that's the way I feel. So hire your world community, because I have a show called Opera from a Sister's Point of View, okay? And I have a 501c3, Morning Brown, that brings culture to cultural deserts. And the thing with Opera from a Sister's Point of View, when I speak to the children, I let them know that they can see themselves in opera. If the opera companies aren't seeing that these children can see themselves in operas, they're doing their communities a disservice. There are Asian operas, there are Italian operas, there are African operas, there's African American operas. Hire who the world is, so that we all can feel comfortable coming to help fill your houses that are empty. Okay.
Miss Indra.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I'm going to piggyback on all that, because I agree 100% with all that. I think opera companies to make sure, most importantly, what Angela said, you have to have a diverse organization. I don't know if all of the opera companies organizations are diverse, because who's at the table speaking on our behalf in the first place? And so you need to have somebody there who can say, hey, have you considered this African-American tenor or this African-American soprano or mezzo or bass for that? Because no one's really thinking about it, because it's not in your face. So if you can just make sure that you have, and not just one to say, oh, we hired one. No, you hire several and people who know, who have an ear for this, for music and for singers. That's important. I think the people who are running the opera companies, yes, about making money, but it's also about putting art, and really good art, on stage as well. And so, I mean, I don't want our Black sisters to be on stage singing Aida when they really are not really an Aida, but they really are Mimi or Traviata or something like that. So, so you have to be smart enough to recognize that as well. And I would love for these opera companies to just be a little bit more open, and know that, and know that voices come in different packages. All the packages aren't going to be the same size, but you got this glorious sound coming out. Don't you want your people to hear that? Don't you want to honor that? And where is the building of a young career? Back in the day, they would mentor these kids and help build careers. They would have people go from opera company to opera company. That's the beautifulness of it. And where is that? Where is that kind of thing, that mentoring thing? So I think there's a mentorship that should be going on. You should be trying to promote these careers, and especially if they're exceptional. exceptional talent that needs support, that needs the PR, that needs that kind of backing. Though that kind of thing needs to happen, and an investment into that young singer, because I can guarantee you, if that young singer feels that you have invested into them, I promise you they'll give it back to you, and they'll bring some more people to give it back to you then. And if they see somebody like me on stage, if my community sees me on stage, then they'll be inclined to tell a friend and bring a friend and all the above. And so I think opera companies do themselves a disservice by not including everybody. Because okay, fine, let's talk about making the money. Don't you think you can make a little bit more money if you can bring in an Asian, bring in a Spanish, bring in African American to help bring in those communities to so that because this art form is for everybody. It's just not for the elite. And I know that a lot of people think that, oh, that opera's not for me because it's for the rich people. No, it's for everybody. And so, and you as the opera company, people who run the opera companies, you know that, but that message is somehow not getting out to the communities. So, so there is a component that needs to be a part of your opera company. That's the outreach component, I guess, that needs to reach out to these communities.
You said something before you speak, Latonia. You said something about fostering the career. The thing with the FEST position over in Europe, you're able to keep, if you're privileged enough to get into a FEST position there, you're able to build and build and build and build and sing this and sing that and sing this and sing that. And I remember reading an interview of a soprano who said that they were able to sing so many roles on the stage of the Met and fall on their faces and just keep on getting back up and trying out new things. And I feel that when it comes to the Black singer, that cannot be the case. We have to go in and we have to be at last an Aida, like the New York Times said about Angela Brown, or you know, or a Latonia Moore singing about the most beautiful sound. It has to be some sort of distinction. It can't just be, okay, well, can that person sing? I don't know. I mean, it used to be that way back in the days. It used to be a thing where there were stepping stones. There were stepping stones of ways to sort of make things work. And other companies would talk about that. Well, I think maybe she could do this or maybe that or But it's no. When artist managers take on singers, if they happen to be African American women, well, can they sing Aida?
Right.
Because they're trying to figure out how they can make money. You know, so they're not thinking about the building blocks. I've gone over to Europe. I've seen a lot of African American and African folks singing Aida, and I'm looking at these girls on stage, and I'm like, you're just a fierce ass Costanza. Like, you should not be singing this. But people just want to make money, and they're not interested in actually building the voice. You know what I mean? Takesha just says investment, and that's what it's about. It's about investing in our American singers, which we don't always see. We see a little bit of investment, and if you say no to a production because you don't think it's right for you or this and the other, you're discarded. You know, I respect you ladies because you all, what Maria Callas says, understands your limitations and understand what you were able to sing and what wasn't right for you at the time. And I respect that so much. Go ahead, Latonia.
Really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead, Angela. Angela.
Say something really fast, that I did have that opportunity to be lauded, to be championed through Opera Company of Philadelphia when Robert Driver was there and Susan Ashbaker. I sung every role that I continued to sing throughout my whole career because of Opera Company of Philadelphia, and they believed in me. So I just wanted to give those kudos. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And that's the thing that City Opera used to do. I mean, I remember Latonia singing Micaela. I sang Micaela there as well. I sang Traviata there. Like, we just don't have those companies that are willing to invest in African-American people, I think, right now, to sort of help to build, them. Go ahead, Latonia.
It's a hard thing to have to say this, but the truth is, for me, you asked specifically, like, what can opera companies do? You know what I mean? What can they do? Well, as an audience member, when I'm sitting in the audience, I'm not looking up there to, expect someone to look a certain way. So if I look on the stage and I'm going to see whatever given opera and I don't see a Black person in it, I don't think one thing or the other, because I'm not there just to look at what color somebody is. That's besides the point when it comes to singing and story,
Okay.
The hard thing is this: as much as companies have decided, yes, we need to make it more diverse and we will hire more Black people, please hire the right ones.
Yeah.
Don't hire a person just because they're Black and you have to fill a quota. For example,
Right.
let's say they decided they want to cast an all Black Bohème, and they've got the perfect Mimi, they've got the perfect Rodolfo, and they do not have the perfect Marcello because he's not available. So they choose the third best Black Marcello they could find because they want to put a Black person in the position. See, that's wrong. And let's say they've got a Korean baritone that is perfect for the role, that just decided it has to be someone Black. Then that Korean baritone doesn't get the opportunity because they've decided to put somebody in for reasons other than serving the art. You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I get it. Absolutely. Hire more Black singers, but please hire the talented Black singers. Please hire the Black singers that actually deserve the role, and don't do it just because you want to throw work our way.
Right.
See,
That's
that
right.
gets very, very frustrating. When you see people, for instance, say, I'm not going to sing Aida because I want to move over for my Black sisters, or I'm not going to do this because I want to move over for X, Y, and Z. You're missing the point. The point is not for you to move over so you can put me into something. The point is to be considered for it regardless of what my skin is.
That's right. That's
So
right.
This is what gets, it's a very, very delicate thing, and it's very, very hard. What can opera companies do? Well, I feel like the best thing an opera company can do is to not always hire the star or the person that's so popular. Because maybe the perfect Leonora for your Trovatore is not the star, but this soprano that's not that well known, but she is perfection in this role. Please hire this girl, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes you have companies that will do that. They've decided we're gonna give the star 7 performances and we're gonna give 2 performances to this unknown that's fantastic in the role. Please promote that unknown that's fantastic in the role.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
nobody will see her as anything other than an unknown if you do not promote her. Many companies only go on the stars that's going to make them big money, but don't realize that if they invest the money in those people that are not stars, they will become just that. And then that person will start putting the butts in those seats for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love it if they started to look at it a little more that way. Promote the lesser known artists, and please hire the person that's actually deserving of the role. No, don't just hire this Desdemona because she's beautiful with blonde hair and blue eyes. Because perhaps your perfect Desdemona is Indian, So please don't just, and I've said it a million times, don't just pass with your eyes and your ears. Go with your heart, go with the goosebumps, go with the person that's got that ooh-ah sensation, like Monique Hart says, which I don't know if y'all know her, but I'm a huge drag fan. And the ooh-ah sensation is what you want. That's why I love Price. That's why I love Tebaldi and Claudia Muzio. That's why I love Corelli and Simon Estes. You understand? They look completely different, but they give me that ooh-ah sensation. Hire that, please. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Angela, do you have anything else to add to that?
Hey, honey, do it. That's right. Okay. It's the truth.
I also want to say, listen, young singers, you're out there, please, when they call, be ready. So I need y'all to get ready. Get ready. So when the call comes, you will be ready. Okay, so don't because you can't get mad if they don't hire you if you weren't ready. You know what I mean? So please get yourself ready, because I have a feeling that there are going to be some calls, and because now their eyes are open, their ears are going to be open, and they're going to want to hear you, and they want to hear you, not some version of you, not somebody you pretending to be, but you. So please Get yourselves ready. Get your PR ready. Get your face ready. Get your clothes ready. Get your arias and ready. Get your recitals ready. Get it ready. Get it ready to go. Huh? I'm sorry. What?
I was like,
Angela?
yo, ready? Because you got to be a strong somebody when you're gonna be out here doing this.
That's right.
The cheering.
Get ready. So you don't have to you'll already be done. It'll be done. You need my resume? Yes, I have it right here. You need my 5 hours? I got them right here. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and,
Tanya.
Latonia?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wouldn't even expect you to call on me. What did you want me to say? Closing notes?
I thought you were saying something.
Is this just the end of what I'm saying, closing out?
Oh no, this what I don't know what else.
I thought you were gonna say something. That's why I said
No, I wasn't actually. I wholeheartedly agree with what you're gonna say. I was going, yes, over here in my corner, 100%.
You 3 ladies are coaching and teaching. Angela, what are you telling your singers now about this time of COVID and what they need to be preparing for and what they're doing? What are you telling your students?
I'm so glad you said that and you asked me that question. What I say to all the young people that I get a chance to work with, I said, prepare your second act before you prepare your first act. Okay? Think about what you would do if you couldn't sing, because guess what? We ain't singing. And so what are you doing to keep yourself going, to keep yourself fed, to keep yourself mentally together, to keep yourself physically together? All of it is wrapped up. So think about what you would do if you couldn't sing while you're still preparing to be the divas and divos that you are. Mm-hmm. Act two.
Indra.
So I'm encouraging my students, obviously they got to work to get paid bills, but I'm also encouraging them to make sure, like I just said, be sure that you're ready. Make sure you're still vocally getting yourself together, learning new stuff, learning all this stuff. Do a little, I'm encouraging my kids to I know everybody's doing these online recitals, but it gives you something to work toward. I mean, it's fine. You may, that it's the 1,000th online recital, but it's more for you than for us. It gives you something to do, something to keep going towards, and also too, you don't know who's looking at you. It could be somebody at the opera come and go, hey, I don't know this voice. I like this voice. I'm gonna contact this person. So it keeps, and so whatever you do, I just encourage my students to do. Whatever you're doing in your life needs to move. If you want to be in this career, it needs to move towards that career. It needs to move your people you deal with, the jobs you take, the music you learn, the people you interact with and coach with. Everything needs to move. The family members you hang around, all that needs to move towards your career and the building up of that. And so so for my students, I've been trying to keep them focused and motivated on the next thing. So when things open up, they will be ready. And not having
Indra, maybe you might want to do like a virtual sort of recital thing for both of y'all students. Maybe, maybe that might be a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about doing something like that, like a big master.
I mean, collaboration.
Angel Blue did that, like up and coming singers, and I thought about doing it for my studio students. So I don't know. We'll see.
Wonderful.
We'll see.
Well, what about you, Latonia? I know you're doing some new work with Renaissance.
Yes, with Renaissance, and I've just started coaching and everything. So for me, I'm a new teacher. I've only been teaching since quarantine, since the pandemic. So for me, half of the students that I've taken so far are not actually opera singers or anything like that. And a lot of them are approaching me just because they want solace, because they want something to do. They want a release. They want an amazing hobby. And so I kind of love that, because it kind of taught me that it doesn't matter if my career goes on the way it was before, because I have to remember why I even got into doing something like this. And it was for my own solace and for like an emotional release too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I needed it. I came up in a family where I was always in the background, and to an extent, I still am. behind my sisters, you know? And so for me, it was an escape. It was something I could call my own, getting to sing like this. And it was the frustration from anything that was going on at home or in school or personal life with my boyfriend. You know, it's an amazing release. So when it comes down to it, regardless of the career that's coming after, no matter what's going to happen in the future, if you're a singer, you're a performer, you want to be a performer, you want to sing, use it for you too. And this is something like, I have 2 young children, toddlers, and believe me, they frustrate me on the daily. Laquita, you know, okay? On the daily. And what a balm it is to, you know, get up and sing Pleurez mes yeux, you know, and just lay out an aria just for myself. So for anyone else who's a singer, regardless of whether or not you're really a singer, your profession is, you could be a real estate agent, a doctor, whatever, work at Walmart. You know, singing is a release. It's an emotional release, and it is a balm. So keep doing it for that. It's one of the greatest human releases that you could possibly have. I mean, we can name a few, I know. But for me, and I speak for all 4 of us, it is one of our greatest releases.
Yes.
If you do it for that long, then it's worth it.
I just have to say that putting this panel together was of no consequence for me. There are fantastic Aidas. I want to reiterate, there are tons of people, because of different schedules and things of that nature, I decided to go with the 3 whom I have some sort of relationship with. And this has been so meaningful to me, because I remember the first time I ever met Angela Brown. I believe I was at Manhattan School of Music. I think you were up there to see a show or something like that. And I thought to myself, once meeting you, that's one of the most cheerful people I've ever met. It was, you were diva, earrings, lashes. I was like, oh my God, I want to be like that. Like, she's dope, you know? And I was like, you know, wow, just, it was, all of you have been in my trajectory in some sort of way. Latonia, you and I have been in the same sort of trajectory, and I've just so blessed everything that you're doing, your family, your children, and everything that you're about to do at the Met, and Indra, all the singing that you're still doing and teaching and giving back to so many students. And some of your students are doing so well. One of your students was in the Porgy at the recent Porgy at the Met, Kim Render. You and I have traveled a lot of miles together, Miss Indra, and I just am so grateful for you. And I remember going to ABA and listening to Indra as an undergrad, and then going and listening to Latonia. I was like, oh my God, these girls are like unbelievable. And I'm
sorry, Laquita, it's hilarious that you say that, because I thought the same about you.
Yep.
I mean, I know that I've said to you, because we did the Belvedere competition, and for a lot of people that don't know this competition, it's a major competition in Germany where singers from all over the world come, and you have to compete in several rounds of it, and it's really strenuous competition. And in the end, I took 2nd place, and Laquita Mitchell won 1st. And let me tell you, for a competition like that, to have 2 Black American sopranos take the first prizes was just the most incredible thing. And let me tell you, it's something for me that was so inspiring. I was just like, I felt like we could do anything. And then we did. We went on.
We did.
You know what I mean? It was such a beautiful thing to see. And I mean, and let me tell you, this woman, Laquita, won singing Adieu notre petite table, which is an underrated aria, okay? It's all about nuance and subtlety, you know? And you had all these amazing singers, you know, Italians, Russians, Koreans come in with banging voices, absolutely incredible sounds that you couldn't believe. And then you had Laquita come in and spin a phrase that just sailed like butter. I mean, it was like butter, you know, the whole aria. And it was just so incredible. So let me just say, before you go on talking about how wonderful we are, please don't forget, you know, you're wonderful, and you inspired me from then on. So thank you.
Yes.
Well,
Definitely.
ladies, I want to thank you all for giving up your time. I know it takes a lot to get the face beat. Now, I've not seen a panel with ladies coming on like this. Like y'all came to take people's heads. Y'all came to take the heads and y'all.
Yes.
I was, when I turned on the Zoom, I was like, are y'all serious? But Angela has a fantastic business making fantastic, beautiful masks right now. I'm yes, and what's the name of the company?
Freddie Mae's daughter at gmail.com. It's
Freddie Mae's daughter.
My mother. Yes.
Fantastic. And Miss Indra is teaching down at Shorter College, and you have a lot going on.
Yeah. I got a studio in Atlanta and everything.
and then you have Miss Latonia, who is homemaker and everything else, and teaching at Resonance, and is encouraging. I just want to thank you so much for your encouragement, and all of you ladies, the way that you have stood your ground as artists. That is something to be very, very commendable. I'm commending you all on this, because it's very rare that many businesses just don't allow for that sort of thing. They want people to stay in their place.
Yep.
But you ladies have been, for me, an exceptional sort. You guys are anomalies. You stand your ground. You bring forth what you're going to bring forth in the manner in which you do it. You promote yourselves lovely, well, always representing. But I always know that these are artists. These are people who are doing their thing, and they're going to present it in the way that they feel fit, not because someone told them to do it. It's the way that you all feel. And I think that has to do with the strength that all of you have within you. And that's the strength and the nobility that Aida needs. And that's why you three are so fantastic at what you do. That's why. And that's why I chose you guys. And I'm just so appreciative of all of you. You know that. Yes. And when all of this is done, we're going to get together. Oh my God.
Yes. Oh my God.
We're going to get together and we're going to have a time. We're going to get some good food from Miss Indra.
Come on.
From Miss Indra and Miss Angela. Those two can cook. Them two right there can throw down. And she can eat, Soprano can eat, and so can I. We are going to throw down. Yes, I'm so grateful for you all, and for your sisterly love, for your respect and mutuality between all of you. I really am grateful. And I think our audience is grateful as well. I just want to give a shout out to so many folks who are just loving on y'all. So many people. Mr. Kevin Short is there, Janae Bruger. There are so many people, and Curtis Rain, who I haven't seen that name in a really long time. Jeffrey Ames is on here. People from Georgia are just loving you. People from Indiana are loving you. Miss Angela, Tiffany Jackson is on. And there's so many people who are just sending on love to you all. And during this time, I'm sending blessings and love to you all. And I just hope that we can continue on to have more encouraging talks like this so that we can bring each other up.
Can I say one last thing?
Of course.
To all of you, my mother would say, if you believe you can't, then you won't.
That's right.
Please believe in yourself that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. That's beautiful.
Yes. Amen. Yeah. Look at these beat faces. I'm gonna call y'all in a little bit because y'all can't take off that makeup now. Y'all look fabulous. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you all, my guests. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Janet Gerald, for being Angela's yes, ride or die. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night. Bye. Thank you.